let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something really fascinating and, yeah, pretty far out there.
Definitely out there.
It's a series of supposed interviews with an alleged reptilian being called Lacerta.
Right. And the source we're looking at, asklacerta.com, it actually puts itself right in the category of UFO mythology and conspiracy theories. It says so itself.
That's important context up front, isn't it?
Absolutely. It frames the whole thing. Look, our job here isn't to prove it or debunk it. We're just here to unpack what this specific source actually says.
Exactly. What's the story here? What are the claims about, human origins, hidden stuff, abilities we might have, the way the world is? We're going to pull out the main ideas.
The key claims, the surprising bits, the sort of nuts and bolts of this particular narrative.
So why bother diving into this kind of thing? Well, we think exploring these alternative stories, these claims about hidden knowledge, it helps us see how these complex belief systems get built.
Yeah, and it tells us something about human curiosity, right? The search for meaning, the questions we ask.
So let's really zero in on what this source is putting on the table for you to consider.
Okay, so first off, the claim is, these are direct answers from a non-human, a reptilian, living secretly here on Earth. And it's all presented as the Lacerta files. So just to reiterate, we're purely exploring the content of these claims as they're laid out in this story.
Got it. Sticking to the text. So let's jump in. The big stuff first, human history and who might be, pulling the strings behind the scenes. The source makes some huge claims right away.
Oh, yeah. Foundational stuff. Like humans didn't just evolve naturally. No. The claim is we were engineered. Created as a, quote, working species.
Engineered by who?
By beings the source calls the Illegim. And this supposedly happened maybe 8,000 to 10,000 years ago.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And this isn't the first time they tried?
Apparently not. The narrative says this is actually the 7th attempt at human civilization.
7th? What happened to the others?
Well, the story goes that previous ones were actually more advanced than we are now, but they got wiped out. Cataclysms.
Right. And what about Lacerta's species, the reptilians? Where do they fit in?
They claim in this source that their species and others have been here for millions of years, long before humans.
Millions. So where are they?
They retreated underground, supposedly, when the surface conditions changed and the narrative insists governments know they're there.
They know?
But keep it secret to maintain power, control, the usual structures.
Okay. And it even talks about religious texts, doesn't it? Gives them a different spin.
It does. It frames them not as divine, but as, distorted history books.
Distorted how?
As records of interactions between humans and different non-human groups, factions even, beings that later got turned into myths of angels and demons.
Ah, and these beings had their own goals for humanity.
Exactly, their own agendas. That's the claim.
This ties into another big conspiracy trope. Government deals with aliens.
Yep, classic element, and it's right here. The source claims shadow governments made pacts with certain ETs.
Which one?
It specifically names gray-skinned beings from the Reticulum star system, the alleged deal. Alien tech for human biological material.
Biological material.
Yeah.
Like people.
The source implies that, yeah. It frames it as a total violation done behind everyone's back, trading away human well-being for technology.
That's dark. And the cataclysms you mentioned, they tie back in.
Yeah, the cyclical thing. The source states Earth goes through these major destructive events roughly every 10,000 years.
And the leaders know.
They know, according to this, and they prepare for themselves. Build bunkers, save resources, but leave the rest of us in the dark vulnerable.
Okay, so hidden history, secret pacts, even illness gets woven into this control narrative.
It does. The text suggests many illnesses aren't just random bad luck. They're deliberately maintained.
Maintained? Why?
To keep people dependent on pharmaceuticals, on the medical system, which, the source claims, also helps limit our natural abilities, our own biological potential.
Wow. So, okay, if we're engineered with limits, what does the source say about what humans could be? Our potential? It mentions suppressed abilities, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is huge in the Lacerta narrative. Things like astrology, tarot cards, the source sees them as, faint echoes, primitive attempts to get back abilities we supposedly once had.
Abilities like what?
Direct perception,
Yeah.
seeing energy fields, knowing things directly. Before, it claims, these artificial genetic limitations were put in place by the Illegim.
So Lacerta's kind has these abilities.
They claim to, yes.
Yeah.
Seamlessly. Direct perception of energy, reality structures, stuff we've lost, according to this story.
And these limits weren't accidental, they were designed.
That's the claim. Engineered into our DNA, our brain structure, and crucially, it talks about manufactured fear programming.
Fear programming.
Yeah. Designed specifically to block abilities and, maybe more importantly, to make us doubt ourselves, doubt our own intuition, our own perceptions.
And society kind of reinforces that doubt.
The narrative argues, yes, governments, religions, they prefer people limited, controllable. So if someone shows signs of these natural capacities, intuition, energy sensitivity, psychic stuff, it gets labeled delusional, maybe mental illness.
Yeah.
Dismiss.
Okay, so if these abilities are just blocked or dormant, how does the source suggest unlocking them? What's the method?
Well, it offers a few ideas framed as reclaiming something lost, not gaining something new. The foundation is concentration, focus.
Makes sense.
Meditation techniques are mentioned, specifically using geometric forms. The idea is to train the mind away from just constant chatter, jumping thoughts.
Basic mental training, but with a specific goal in mind here.
Exactly. Then it suggests simple exercises to try and extend your perception, like sit quietly, eyes closed, try to feel the room's energy, or identify objects without looking, that kind of thing.
And getting back to nature plays a role too.
A big one.
Yeah.
Regular time in nature, deep forests, caves near clean water, away from artificial electromagnetic fields. The claim is this helps reactivate dormant pathways that our modern environments suppress.
Interesting. It mentions sound as well.
Yeah, rhythmic sound, specifically low frequencies, like 7 to 14 hertz. Supposedly helpful for brainwave states that allow access to these abilities.
Of all the blocks mentioned, what's the biggest hurdle according to Lacerta?
Fear, hands down. That manufactured fear programming is described as the main block. Overcoming that deep, ingrained fear is supposedly key.
And trying to do this,
Mm.
it won't be easy. The source warns about pushback.
It does. It says you might face resistance, not just from others still stuck in the programming, but also from the controlling structures, governments, religions who, in this narrative, benefit from people staying limited.
Right.
The whole point is reclaiming your original state, not becoming superhuman or something.
Okay, that framework makes sense within the story.
Hmm.
So what abilities specifically does the source claim humans could potentially access if these blocks were removed? It lists quite a few.
Yeah, it's a whole spectrum, though still claimed to be less than Lacerta's kind because of the alleged engineering. It lists things like telepathy, more like direct transfer of concepts, images, feelings, not just words, then remote perception.
Like remote viewing.
Exactly. The source links it to that. Perceiving distant places or events with your mind. Also, field manipulation.
Influencing things with your mind.
Yeah.
Like psychokinesis?
Sort of, yeah. Influencing matter or energy fields through consciousness. Starts subtle, it says, but could grow.
Okay, what else? Time stuff?
Temporal perception, yeah. Not time travel like in the movies, but a limited sense of probable futures or accessing past information from the energy field.
And controlling your own body.
Bioregulation. Conscious control over healing, body temperature, metabolism. The source points to, like, advanced yogis or some healers as tiny examples of this.
What about talking to animals or other beings?
Interspecies communication, yep. Understanding other life forms' consciousness. The source claims the barriers put in humans actually helped us dominate other species because we couldn't truly understand them.
Seeing energy, auras and things.
Energy perception, yeah. Seeing the fields behind physical matter and consciousness projection, basically, sending your awareness outside your body. Linked to myths about ghosts or angels, the source says.
And the Akashic Records idea. Collective memory.
Accessing collective memory, yes. That's claimed to be possible too, but blocked deliberately so we don't remember our true origins according to this story. And finally, vibrational attunement, adjusting your own energy frequency.
That's a lot.
It is. And the source stresses these don't just flip on like a switch. It's gradual, stages. Reactivating pathways while fighting off programmed doubt and maybe even societal pressure.
That's a really comprehensive list of potentials within this whole narrative. So, okay, given all that, the hidden reality, the supposed potential, how does the source suggest just a regular person, a civilian, navigate daily life? Any practical advice?
Quite a bit, actually. And it's
Yeah.
all framed as like acts of resistance against this alleged control system. First big one, reduce dependence.
Dependence on what?
On artificial systems, modern conveniences, especially electronic devices seen as control and surveillance tools.
So less screen time, basically.
Pretty much. And build practical skills. Self-sufficiency, growing food, purifying water, simple stuff. These are framed as acts that actually threaten your controllers because you're less reliant.
Makes sense in that context. What about mental resilience? protecting your mind.
Crucial. The source sees mainstream media, news, entertainment, social media as programming tools designed to create fear, division, distraction, keep people busy and manageable.
So be critical of media. Don't let it push your emotional buttons.
Exactly. Be wary of those emotional hooks. Think rationally. And connect with people.
Real connections.
Yeah, build deep, genuine connections based on mutual growth. The claim is this helps reactivate natural telepathy, and controllers fear people working together with clear minds.
And more nature again, I bet.
You bet. Regular time in nature, away from the electromagnetic smog, lets your nervous system reset, function more naturally. That's the idea.
Questioning authority comes up a lot in these kinds of narratives.
It's key here, too. Question all authority, especially those demanding blind obedience. The control systems, allegedly, rely on people just complying without thinking.
What about materialism? Buying stuff.
Seen as a deliberate distraction, keeps people chasing wealth, objects, trapped in cycles of fake scarcity and competition, devotes energy from, self-discovery. Your real value isn't your stuff, according to Lacerta.
And kids. How do you protect them from this alleged programming?
Good question. The source emphasizes protecting children from the programming in schools, which it claims stifle creativity and enforce conformity. Teach them to question everything, think independently, trust their own gut feelings from day one.
So overall, resistance isn't about fighting, but about opting out.
Pretty much. The power of the system, the narrative says, comes from our collective belief and participation. So withdraw your belief, withdraw your fear, stop participating unquestioningly, become less controllable. That's presented as the real power.
Okay, let's shift to another specific area the source covers, ET activity. It has a particular take on things like animal mutilations.
Right. According to this source, those aren't random or mysterious at all.
No.
No. Described as biological sampling, done by several non-human groups, but primarily those grazed from reticulum again.
Sampling. Why?
Part of those alleged long-term deals with human powers, tech for biological material, they use livestock because it's easier, less noticeable than taking humans, supposedly. The clean surgical cuts are pointed to as proof of advanced tech.
And the weird helicopters sometimes seen nearby.
Human military or intel, the source claims, they know what's happening, they monitor the sites, the public confusion. That's deliberate, hides the whole program. Lacerta's species claims they aren't involved in that, by the way.
Interesting. The source also says the real hotspots for non-human activity aren't places like Area 51. It names other spots.
That's right. Forget the famous places. The source points to areas offering better cover, like deep oceans. Yeah. Western Pacific, Southern Atlantic, great shielding, unexplored. Underwater bases, basically. Detected as USO's unidentified submerged objects. Also, Central Asia.
Where in Central Asia?
Altai Mountains, northern Tibet. Claims of ancient portal systems there, very remote, and governments that cooperate in keeping people out.
Antarctica is mentioned too.
Yep, under the ice. Eastern Antarctica. Conditions are right for some ET types, and treaties limit human access, which unintentionally protects these alleged bases.
Any other locations?
The Amazon Basin for biological monitoring, lots of biodiversity, natural cover, and deep underground systems.
Underground bases.
Southwestern U.S., northern Mexico mentioned as access points to huge subterranean networks.
So the locations share common factors. Shielding, remoteness.
Exactly. Natural cover, few people, resources, maybe ancient infrastructure like portals, and cooperative abilities keeping it secret, places like Area 51, just decoys, according to this narrative.
It's fascinating how it reframes everything. It even has a specific take on the relative peace we have now.
Yeah, this is a really interesting part of the narrative. It says this current peace isn't real peace. It's an illusion.
An illusion. How so?
It's a shift in control methods. Less big, overt wars between nations. More economic warfare, psychological manipulation, think digital tech, social media chemical control through food, water, and biological stuff like health measures.
So the conflict is still there, just harder to see.
Exactly. More insidious. Less visible violence.
Why the shift? According to the source.
Several reasons given. Avoids nuclear war risk. Gotta preserve the planet's resources, right? Makes people complacent, less likely to resist, and allows for massive surveillance and control rollouts disguised as convenience or connectivity.
So this era isn't calm, it's a transition.
Precisely. A critical moment, the source says. Environmental problems, resource shortages, population stress, advanced tech, and a few more people starting to wake up to it all. It's all converging now.
Are the alleged controllers, the Illagim, all on the same page about this?
Source claims no. divisions among them. Some supposedly want population reduction, tighter control. Others see potential in developing humans differently with tech, making them useful in a new way.
So the battle hasn't stopped, it just moved.
That's the core idea. It's not peace, it's consolidation of control. The battlefield isn't land anymore, it's consciousness itself. If you think things are genuinely peaceful now, the narrative suggests you just haven't recognized the new nature of the conflict.
Okay, one last big topic this source details. Atlantis. It's treated as real history, not myth.
Definitely. In this narrative, Atlantis was the fifth human civilization, roughly 75,000 to 58,000 years ago. Not necessarily a utopia, but very different.
How were the people different?
Genetically more advanced, the source claims. Taller, bigger brains, better spatial and intuitive skills. This was before the later alleged genetic downgrades.
And their tech was totally different too.
Completely. Not fossil fuels or electricity like us, it was based on crystals, using Earth's natural energy fields. Crystal towers amplified energy and consciousness, boosting telepathy and psychokinesis.
Wow. What about society? How was it run?
No money. Society organized by consciousness resonance. Your natural frequency aligned you with the right work and role, supposedly more harmonious than our hierarchies.
Where was it? Just one island?
No, spread out. Source mentions areas in the mid-Atlantic, North Africa, near Japan, different continents.
How did it end? Natural disaster?
Source says no. Deliberate destruction. By illegitimate factions who felt these advanced humans were getting too powerful, threatening. They supposedly manipulated Earth's crustal plates to cause cataclysms.
Jeez. Any survivors? Did the knowledge survive?
Survivors scattered, source claims, carried fragments of the knowledge. These fragments supposedly became the basis for ancient mystery school.
Any physical proof left?
The narrative claims yes. Remnants of crystal tech exist underwater or buried. Governments might have found some pieces but can't make them work. Why? Because they need consciousness interaction, which modern humans lack due to the alleged blocks.
And this collapse still affects us.
Big time, according to the source. Created deep species trauma, an unconscious fear of powerful tech and catastrophe. Also, some people today supposedly carry Atlantean genetic markers. Makes them more open to higher consciousness, but maybe struggle fitting into this society.
And why would the controllers want us to think Atlantis is just a myth?
Keeps people from looking too closely at that period, the source suggests. Prevents us finding evidence of what humans were capable of before the alleged limitations were imposed. Hides the history of interference. That's the overview of the claims in this Lacerta material. It weaves this whole tapestry, doesn't it? Engineered origins, hidden history, suppressed abilities, aliens, a different take on peace, Atlantis.
It really is a complete alternative worldview. And like we said, and the source itself says, it's presented as UFO mythology, conspiracy theory. But digging into these narratives, pulling out the claims, it helps us see what they're saying, maybe why they resonate, what questions they're trying to answer about our world.
Absolutely. You look at these specific claims and you see a very particular lens on reality, one that challenges pretty much everything: conventional history, science, society.
So thinking about everything presented in this specific source, the engineered limits, the hidden potential, the controllers, what really jumps out at you? What big questions does this specific story raise for you about the reality you experience?
Yeah, that's the takeaway. Given this whole web of claims in the source, hidden histories, secret agendas, untapped human potential, how might you start to question the very nature of the reality you perceive every single day?
That's definitely something to chew on. This deep dive into the specific claims within the Lacerta material certainly gave us a lot to unpack from this particular narrative.
It really offers a full, though definitely alternative way of looking at where we came from, where we are, and where we might be going.